Thanks again, everyone, for joining. My name's Emily, and I'll be leading this webinar today as part of our Papirfly Unleashed series. Now, Unleashed is our webinar series that we have that kind of looks behind the scenes at some of the components that we have within our products at Papirfly and talks about how you can really leverage those products within your branding content and empowering your teams day to day. So today on the webinar, we will be discussing how smart templating empowers your brands. A few things we'll be covering are what are stencils and how they can facilitate dynamic templates for your brands. Within them, how to activate your brand guidelines for multi-channel asset creation, stencil and template customization, and how to empower your users to create on-brand documents. So, as I said, my name's Emily. I'm the head of product engagement here at Papirfly. Joining me, I have Frank Tommy Brodka, our head of product marketing, and also Rich Nelson, the guru and the product lead behind our product Produce at Papirfly, which is our templating technology.
Hello.
So, thanks, Rich. Lovely to have you both here. I'm just going to pass over to Frank Tommy to set the scene and give us a little bit of background.
Hi, everyone. So before we dig into today's topic, I will quickly go through what brand management is. So it's three things. Fundamentally, you need to have implemented a digital asset management tool in your organization. And you also need to have a digital asset management strategy, because that's your single source of truth of all the official branded assets, such as images, illustrations, videos, icons, documents, and so much more. So that needs to be integrated to your either website team or support team, CRM, social media. So many different teams need access to your brand assets. So the second one on the top right is you need to educate everyone on your brand identity, who you are, what you stand for, and how to implement and use your brand on a daily basis. This is delivered through a brand hub to get all employees on the same page. Thirdly, you need to be able to create on-brand assets. So just clicking the animation. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Our own brand template technology we call Produce, because you can produce an infinite number of on-brand assets. So why is smart templating important? This is a stat, let me get up. We like here at Papirfly. Almost all organizations have branding guidelines, but only 25% have formal guidelines that are consistently enforced. And this is a report from demand metric called the impact of brand consistency. And this is because it's challenging to be consistent across every touch point throughout the customer journey when different teams are involved in the brand experience. So for instance, you could have one team for paid media, focusing more on the awareness stage. You could have another team for your social media and your organic channels. And then maybe you think the purchase experience needs to be right. So you have a dedicated team for the e-commerce. And then finally, you might have a dedicated team for loyalty and CRM and customer advocacy. So this is a challenge when you have different teams and how are you consistent throughout the whole customer journey. Another challenge we see is the process of having branding and design elements in a brand hub or even in a PDF, but how do you transform that to a pixel perfect assets in different languages, in different formats for different use cases, paid, organic, physical, and digital. This is where our template technology is unique. And this is where I actually hand it over to our amazing product lead, Rich, that will talk about Produce. Go ahead, Rich.
Hello. So yeah, Produce is our dynamic multi-channel template technology. It allows you to activate your brand identity with pre-approved design elements that conform to your brand guidelines as fixed and flexible as you desire for any use case. So when we say like dynamic, we mean like dynamic design fits into the total ecosystem strategy in two key ways. One is by creating a foundation of versatility and adaptability across the entire business. The other is by optimizing efficiency, space, and outcomes. Multi-channel means the customer experience is seamless. It doesn't matter what channel the customer uses, but rather that the brand experience is consistent, it's easy, it's enjoyable. Pre-approved means removing bottlenecks and speeding up the process. And fixed or flexible, well, we're going to get into that. That's the focus of what we're talking about today. So the old way and there's the new way of doing things. And, without Papirfly, it's a long process, the old way. It involves, many departments and teams. It could take up to a week to get all this stuff worked out, to just produce perhaps even a single piece of marketing collateral. But with Papirfly, we're streamlining that process so that marketing collateral can be created on demand by any business user, removing dependencies so your business can produce at scale. But there's one bottleneck that remains, and that's, with the flexible stencils, templates that are provided by Papirfly are through stencils, and these are typically with a limited number of options. So any new designs and visual elements also have to be added by the Papirfly project team, and so that puts a dependency on Papirfly helping you with our project implementation, along the way for anything that you need to do. So the question is how can we empower brands to unlock their full templating potential and reduce their dependency also on Papirfly itself? And this is where we come with the concept of templating by you. You see, with our flexible stencils, Produce provides your admins and designers with a branded toolkit, able to create an unlimited variety of templated layouts with brand governance to drive your marketing needs further.
Rich, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So first, I think we have a poll out. I don't know if you can see it, but feel free to answer. So my question is, what is typically the process of creating a branded toolkit or stencil? Do you have Figma or InDesign files from the customer, or do you have a workshop? How's the process? And my second question was, what are typically the most important and popular elements you want to have in that stencil or brand toolkit to play around with?
Right. Our typical process working with customers to create stencils is to work with supply designs and reference the branding guidelines. We'll have several workshops. Those will define the goals and the requirements of the customers and what they kind of want to achieve and get out of their stencils and their templating. And we put that into a specification which the designers, follow to create the stencil. I would say that the most important things obviously are, the design is really crucial because we'd like to see how the branding is executed and making sure that you as a customer are coming in thinking about, the type of variation you might want or the different scenarios that you might want to communicate and trying to envision, how your brand is represented that way and that type of messaging. And we start to build that toolkit fully. So we've prepared a video to kind of take you through what we mean by flexible stencils, to kind of show you the capabilities and the process and everything. So I'll show that to everybody now.
Stencils and Produce. We start with your brand identity and expand further from there with your brand guidelines, typography, color systems, and more. We analyze your designs and establish your marketing collateral production goals with templating. From those, we create a library of components and layouts and incorporate design options consistent with your brand. We add this library to a stencil made just for you, where you can create branded templates for your team. Drag components into layouts and customize options to make your template. With components able to adapt to size and scale in accordance to your brand identity, you can make many unique layouts. Add text, imagery, and other content to give assets the visual impact you need. Set color, typography, and other options, all while ensuring your brand identity is preserved. With template customization, you can take granular control over what end users can modify, locking layout positions, setting images in source folders, choosing copy content, limiting specific design element properties, such as color, branding, and other options. Your templates will then be available for end users to create new documents and assets. Customization will be limited by the options you choose to enable in the template. With flexible stencils in Produce, Papirfly unleashes your brand's potential to create marketing collateral at an unprecedented scale, all with the brand governance essential to maintain your identity with 100% consistency.
Oh, there's that. Hope you enjoyed that, and that hopefully walked you
Great
through.
video, Rich.
You like that? Right. So yeah, with other solutions, for templating, I feel like it falls into two categories. They're either, too loose with little or no brand governance, and so lots and lots of freedom, but your end users could be creating anything, and that means things get off brand. Or it's too hard and it's too difficult to implement. So you got lots of the governance and you can put those controls in it, but it's almost a specialist that you need of itself, or worse, you might even need your own set of developers to program, and that makes a kind of a bottleneck in the process again for you to get things done. So with Produce, we're striking that perfect balance with our stencils to find that right level of governance and accessibility that best suits your business.
So, Rich, I'm going to be the guy who interrupts you again, but this time I'm asking Emily, since you've been or are on the customer side and actually from sales and onboard a lot of customers, so you have hands-on knowledge on what did it do before Papirfly for those who's using our templating tool. Was it another templating tool? Was it the internal agency or was it external agency? And that's basically the question we have in the poll. So what is your experience?
Sure, great question, Frank, Tommy. And look, coincidentally, I think it also actually pairs quite well with the poll results that we just asked about how do you create the majority of your brand content today. And we can see from some of your answers that have come through that there is quite a variety of different methods that all of you are doing, carrying out to create your branding content, whether that is internal design studios, external agencies, and templating tools. And honestly, it does really vary across all of our customers who come into using our templating tool. They do often come through from these three different solutions as well. And although it does vary, I think they all have those key pain points that you and Rich were talking about before, and that idea of the bottleneck that really comes in when you want to create something fast and on brand, especially with the ever-changing trends on things like social media. They really struggle with those areas of the business that want the latest content to be live yesterday, and they still have to go through the design studio that often is backed up, or they've got to brief in an agency to be able to get that content with the back and forth iterations. So it does vary a lot, but I think all of them do come with the same pain points and the same sort of aha moments or realizations of sort of happiness when they can see once you feed in your branding content and those basic designs, you can continue to iterate and continue to generate sort of hundreds, if not thousands, of different branded content at pace, on time, all the time. So yeah, completely varies. It's sort of able to be finding a solution for everyone.
Cool. Thanks, Sam.
Pleasure. Back to you, Rich.
Thank you. So yeah, just to break down a few parts from the animation we just saw, there's components, and these are modular elements, and they vary in rules. And yeah, components, these are the things that can be added to the page, or they can be added inside other components. And the rules can be set, when and where components can be placed, as much as desired, and allow for a set amount of a variety of options and such. With locking controls, generally all the controls in the template's side palette can be, limited or locked completely for the end users, depending on, what options you want to leave available for them. Additionally, we can even have some controls and some editability in the template customization made exclusively just for the template admins only. With preset layouts, what we try to offer the template admins is clear starting points for possible component combinations. Now, typically, these are representative of customer supply designs that frame what the template layouts, the stencil should be able to create. And with our different grids and layout systems, stencils can either use like a grid layout that, it's got very set number of rows and columns, and it aids in precise placement for elements. Or we could have a free layout, for extreme flexibility. And we can even pair either with smart guidelines, which will help users and admins as they're customizing the templates, and with intelligent snap points for placement, alignment, and spacing. So with Produce the Smart Templates, we're going to take your brand guidelines, your typography, your color, your design systems, even your design layouts, and we create the stencil application just for you. That's capable of creating dozens of templates, and from there, you could create hundreds of documents and potentially thousands of assets. And this is all empowering your marketing potential at an amazing scale.
So I'm curious, when you say 1,000 assets, just to give ourselves some numbers, for all customers using Produce today, they create a stencil. We help them create a stencil, and then they create a template from that stencil, and then they kind of have a document with like several formats for like a social media posts, and then that becomes an assets in the endpoint. So if you say for the last 6 months or the last 3 months, how many assets does a normal customer produce, and like the top customer, if you want to give some numbers?
Yeah, in the last 3 months, for example, our top producing customers are probably averaging around 4,000 documents a month. And some of those documents might be producing a single asset or multiple assets, depending on the media type. Our top producer in that same 3-month period made 144,000 documents of marketing collateral. And across all of our customers, it was nearly 487,000 in a 3-month period. So yeah, I mean, the potential here is
like a half a million.
Nearly half.
Yes,
you want around 500,000. It's quite staggering just how well this scales and how much more content and marketing collateral customers are able to do. As one recent customer explained to us, what Produce is really enabling customers to do is it's not so much about sometimes speeding up the process of making the marketing collateral, but it's all those opportunities to make even more and the stuff you wouldn't have had time to do. And that's all that enriching communication you can get out there about your business in so many ways, so different channels, and Produce just really enables you to do that.
So basically it's either you pay now or you pay later. It sounds like
exactly.
Pay forever. Cool, thanks, Rich.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, Produce is leading the way in an intuitive asset creation with accessible user experience, reliable brand governance, and it's empowering you and your users. So yeah, we're really excited about our product, and we hope you are too. So just want to say thank you for everybody attending. I hope that was informative.
You muted Emily. I can't hear you. I can take over if you want. Do we have any questions in the chat? So I'm just going to bring this up. Do you want me to take it, Emily, or does it work? Okay. I'll just read it out loud. Can you hear me, Rich?
Yes, I can hear you. Hopefully you can still hear me.
Classic. This is a question from Ali. Is this tool able to be used across the business, or is it restricted to the branding teams? So it's basically a central branding team, or can like local teams? I'm guessing that's the question.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about the tools. It's really kind of really up to you and the amount of training or trust or delegation you're willing to give local teams or non-branding teams. So we do have customers who they have a certain amount of freedom that they're happy to give users within certain contexts, especially like I think in employer branding, they want a lot of their own people to be able to be giving testimonials in social media. So they want to encourage a certain amount of creativity with the brand. But again, we can lock down whatever you want us to lock down, and we can do that in the template customization. You can do that yourselves in what the template actually does then for the end users, or a little of both of us working together to achieve those goals. So it's really kind of, how far and wide you want to go, and how much, because I mean, obviously the stencils that we create have its own set of brand governance built in. So that's, again, like if you wanted to have a really big free layout, a grid layout, something more restrictive. If you want people to be able to add all sorts of different branding logo options, or maybe they're supposed to be really, set with one and there's very specific placements, we can lock that into the stencil so that the template admins don't get to make those choices. But if they're a very trained team and you're happy to delegate that to them, we could give them a lot more freedom, knowing that they know, hey, okay, I have more variety here, but I've got training and expertise to work within the branding guidelines and designs to a certain point.
Yeah, I think that's the misconception of branding, when you think you just have relies on the few, but when you're a large and international and complex organization, I think it's you need to educate everyone. And in our previous webinar, we had our product data for integrations, and in a showcase where you could have, it doesn't have to always be templating. If you have like a brand assets in the digital asset management, and integrate that to like a PowerPoint or a Google Doc or things like that. But there's different ways to activate your brand. So
can you hear me now,
yeah.
Frank Tommy? Perfect.
I'm handing you the mic. Go ahead.
Just another addition to that as well is used across the business. It can also be used, a lot of our customers use it not by the pure corporate branding teams or the retail marketing teams, but also huge uses are seen across things like employer branding and a lot of other niche user cases. Anywhere where you've got that requirement to maintain brand consistency while creating content at scale, which to be honest doesn't really not touch anywhere in any business. So yeah, there's a huge amount
think of the finance team sending invoices. If your company is sending thousands of invoices, that's
exactly
beyond brand. If you're a bit nerdy.
And the next question is there a capability to import InDesign templates?
So not currently. Right now, we take supply designs in the source of design source files such as InDesign or Photoshop, and our developers work from that to produce the stencils. We are definitely, looking into having an import feature from InDesign and possibly other design software. But what we really want to make sure we achieve with that is something that's very usable in the end for our customers. So we want that to be intelligent and have some utility. We've seen in other softwares that offer these things, it's kind of like, okay, here's InDesign import, and then what? Again, some might just leave you like, well, now I can grab anything and move it anywhere and now just ruin the brand. Other software, it's like, okay, I'm able to edit one text field, but how do I make the rest of the text respond? Or how do I make it so if I change this image, maybe text updates in a certain way? Or if I change the size, where do things go? So we want to be smarter about it so that when you bring that in, some really intelligent things happen. So watch this space. Hopefully we're going to have some more news on that soon for everybody.
Thanks, Rich. I'll keep firing them away. The next one is from Nicholas, who asked, is there any way of connecting this to PIM data to produce product data sheets?
Definitely. So we would, take in those requirements when building the stencil, and so to make sure to build in the logic that was necessary to connect with that PIM data, then to help your template admins then use that to their advantage when creating the different layouts or whatnot to product data sheets or what have you.
Perfect, thank you. And I've got one from Gear that I might have misunderstood as the humble person, but is code a part of Produce or separate module in Papirfly?
Yeah, I might need some clarify on the code part. When I say the way we make the stencils is we send that to our development team. So when I say, if I've said code, I mean they would take those designs, those requirements, and through using a programming language in our software development kit, they produce the stencils, which are essentially almost like a mini application of a tool set for the brand, and it provides all those kind of core building blocks for people to start assembling different pages and layouts and whatnot.
Thanks so much, Rich. Yeah, Gab, please reach out if we haven't quite answered your question there. The next one is from Frank, who's asked, are there design rules that must be followed so that templates can be used in a stencil and you don't need another stencil?
Potentially. I mean, we have to take each thing in turn and see the requirements and what we're trying to achieve. So certainly, I mean, the idea is that there are a certain amount of rules and governance in the stencil itself. So when creating those templates, those things are translated over to what is saved and then the end users use. To what aim and to what variety and what combinations, the possibilities are endless. So we work that out in the workshop, and we'll define that together and figure out the best way to achieve those aims.
Thanks for that, Rich. I think one thing that I've definitely seen as being part of the customer team watching these templates come to life is definitely the fact that we've got customers that come with several templates that they would like the outputs of, and we help them realize that, you know, they might think that they may need many templates. And as you've shown before in your presentation, that it's not always that you need so many separate templates, but they can be consolidated into one with still having the ability to output those many different desired outcomes that they come to us with. So we've got a phenomenal team that supports the implementation of this, and they can really help both bring your designs to life, but also streamline it in a way to make sure that it's not only simple and easy to use for yourself as the product owner, but also for your end users to be able to understand how to use the interface and generate it easily and without much labor or much confusion as well, which really enables them to adopt it.
I can maybe, there is from Garu a question or comment on this previous question. So just want to say the Papirfly is made up of different companies that we acquired. So our flagship product in templating is Produce. So that's the one we're like building all our templating capabilities. But we have we have other templating tools in the Papirfly group. But yeah, just to clarify a bit. But we can do digital banners in Produce or create them.
Hope we can. Well, look, I think we're at time. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if you've got any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or your CSM or any of your relevant contacts at Papirfly. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we hope you have a fabulous rest of day.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot,
Thank you.
everyone.